The night shift at Walmart hides terrifying secrets that defy explanation. These 8 stories, collected from employees across the country, expose a dark reality lurking behind the bright fluorescent lights. What these workers witnessed in those empty aisles will make you question everything you thought you knew about America's largest retailer. Keep watching to discover the chilling truth that Walmart doesn't want you to know. I've been sitting here for like an hour, trying to figure out how to talk this. My hands are literally shaking just thinking about it again. This happened last month, and I still get nightmares about it. It started out so normal. I was doing a late Walmart run because I needed cat food and some basic groceries. You know, the usual, oh crap, I have nothing to eat tomorrow kind of shopping trip. It was around 8:45 at night, and I'd just gotten off work, so I was already tired and kind of zoned out. I remember I was looking at bananas, trying to find ones that weren't completely green because who has time to wait 5 days for bananas to ripen? When I got this weird feeling, like when you just know someone's watching you, I glanced up and saw this guy standing by the apples. He was tallish, wearing this weirdly nice jacket for Walmart, like a navy blue business casual type thing, and he was just staring at me. Not like the normal empty stare you do when you're tired and grocery shopping. This was different, like he was memorizing at my face or something. I tried to ignore it because I didn't want to be that paranoid person, like maybe he was just spacing out. So I grabbed my bananas and went to get bread. But then he was there, at the end of the bread aisle, pretending to look at crackers or whatever. My stomach just dropped. I started doing this thing where I was trying to act normal while watching him in my peripheral vision. And guys, he was everywhere, every single aisle. Sometimes he'd get super close, like close enough that I could smell his cologne. It was this gross, sweet smell, like those cheap car air fresheners that give you a headache. Other times, he'd just lurk at the end of the aisle, not even pretending to shop anymore. I was freaking out so bad I could barely type. Tried texting my roommate, but my hands were shaking everywhere. "Someone's following me at Walmart, please call," is what I meant to write, but it came out all garbled. She didn't respond anyway because she was probably asleep. I started doing random things to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Like I'd suddenly turn around or go back to aisles I'd already been to. He followed every time. If I walked faster, he walked faster. If I stopped, he stopped. I was having trouble breathing at this point and felt like I was going to throw up. I ended up just abandoning my cart and speed walking to security. There was this older security guard. His name tag said Dave, and I must have looked absolutely terrified because he immediately sat me down and got me some water. I was like, there's this man, he's been following me, he has a blue jacket, he's right. But when I turned around to point him out, nothing, no one there. Dave was super nice about it though. He was like, let's check the cameras, okay? We take this stuff seriously. So we went back to this tiny security office and he started going through the footage. This is the part that still makes me feel crazy. We watched like 5 minutes of footage and it was just me by myself, walking around looking paranoid, jumping at nothing, abandoning my cart for no reason. There was no man, no blue jacket, nothing. The footage clearly showed I was alone the whole time, but I swear to God, I can still remember exactly what he looked like. I can still smell that nasty cologne if I think about it too hard. I haven't gone back to that Walmart. I do all my shopping at Target now during the day, and I always make my boyfriend come with me. The really messed up part? Sometimes I'll be somewhere totally random, like at work or in my car, and I'll smell that same cologne. But when I look around, there's never anyone there. I know how this sounds. I know the camera showed I was alone. But I also know what I saw and felt that night. And honestly, I don't know which possibility scares me more, that there really was someone following me and somehow they didn't show up on camera, or that my brain completely made up an entire person who felt that real. I've only told this story to my closest friends, but I think people need to know, especially women who shop alone at night. You know how sometimes the most terrifying moments of your life start out completely normal? That's exactly how this began. Just another Tuesday evening, and I was doing my usual grocery run after work. My fridge was literally empty, except for some questionable leftovers and half a bottle of ketchup. The fluorescent lights were flickering that night. They always do that late in the evening, makes everything feel strange somehow. But I didn't think anything of it at the time, and I was just going through my usual routine, grabbing my typical stuff, some basics for meal prep, coffee, because I definitely needed more coffee, and probably way too many snacks, if I'm being completely honest with you. I remember checking my phone while I was waiting in line. It was 9:07 p.m. The cashier looked about as exhausted as I felt, and we did that awkward small talk thing about the weather. Everything was just normal. So I pushed my cart out to my car, and of course I always end up parking in that section of the parking lot where the lights never seem to work quite right. The cart had that one wobbly wheel too, the kind that makes this awful squeaking noise every few seconds. I remember being annoyed about that, of all things. I was loading the bags into my trunk, just going through the motions, and then I saw it. In the rearview mirror, there was someone lying across my back seat, just lying there, still waiting. God, even talking about it now makes my hands shake. My heart literally stopped. You know that feeling where your whole body goes ice cold, like someone just dumped freezing water down your spine? That's what happened to me, Isis. I stood there for what felt like forever, but it was probably only a few seconds. I tried telling myself I was seeing things, that maybe it was just a shadow or my gym bag or anything else, but then, oh my God, they moved. Just slightly, adjusting their position. I can still see that movement in my mind, that subtle shift in the darkness. I don't even remember dropping the last bag of groceries. Everything after that is like fragments in my memory, like snapshots of a nightmare. I remember the sound of eggs breaking, watching them leak across the pavement, the way my keys jingled because my hands were shaking so badly. My feet they just started moving on their own, carrying me back toward the store. I called 911 as I was running. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was all high and breathless and panicky. The dispatcher kept telling me to stay calm, to stay in the store, but all I could think about was, what if I hadn't seen them? What if I had just gotten in my car like any other night? The thought still makes me feel sick. When the police arrived, they found that my car door had been jimmied open, so quietly, so carefully that I hadn't even noticed when I was loading the groceries. They searched the area, but they never caught whoever it was. Later, they told me this wasn't the first incident like this in the area. There had been other reports, other women. I have a different car now. Different color, different everything. I never ever shop at night anymore. But sometimes when I look in my rearview mirror, I swear I can see something moving in the shadows of my backseat. And I can't help but wonder, how many times had they watched me before that night? How long had they been planning it? How many other women are they watching right now? I'm telling you this because I need you to understand and how important it is to check your back seat before you get in. Every single time. Even if you feel silly doing it, even if people are watching and you think you're being paranoid. Because sometimes that paranoid feeling, it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to keep you alive. The police never caught them. They took fingerprints, checked security cameras, everything, but whoever it was, they knew what they were doing. They'd done this before. The detective told me later that based on how the lock was picked, it was probably someone with experience, someone who had been practicing. You know what the scariest part is? Not the fact that they were in my car or that they'd planned it all out. The scariest part is knowing they're still out there, probably watching someone else now, maybe even doing the same thing to another woman's car right at this moment. The sound of those broken eggs hitting the pavement. That's what I hear in my nightmares now. Not screaming, not violence, just eggs breaking on cold asphalt. Funny how trauma works, isn't it? How it picks these tiny details to replay over and over. But I'd rather hear that sound every night for the rest of my life than think about what might have happened if I hadn't looked in that rearview mirror. I still can't shake what I witnessed at the mall today. It happened during my lunch break, just another Tuesday afternoon in late October. The food court at Walmart was buzzing with the usual crowd, business people and young mothers with strollers. I remember every detail so clearly, though at the time it felt like just another day. I was sitting at my usual corner table with my chicken rice bowl, taking a break from my shift at the bookstore. The table wobbled slightly, as it always does, so I wedged a napkin under one leg to steady it. That's when something caught my eye. He wasn't someone who would normally draw attention. Mid-40s, wearing a charcoal gray suit with the jacket off, crisp blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and an expensive watch that caught the fluorescent light in. The type you'd expect to see grabbing lunch between meetings. But there was something off about the way he moved. Maybe it's because I've worked retail for 6 years. You develop a sense for people who aren't what they seem. This man wasn't watching the merchandise. His attention was fixed on a young boy, maybe 12 or 13, browsing phone cases at a kiosk. The boy was alone, wearing a red and black striped hoodie that looked a size too big. The man kept circling closer, each pass bringing him nearer to the boy. I found myself holding my breath, my fork suspended halfway to my mouth. He positioned himself on the opposite side of the kiosk, pretending to examine the products, but his eyes never left the boy. The food court was quieter now as the lunch rush wound down. I could hear the squeak of a janitor's cart and the hiss of an espresso machine. Everything else faded into the background as I watched. Then it happened, so quick I almost missed it. As he passed behind the boy, his hand moved with practiced precision, a slight gesture smooth as water. He slipped something into the boy's jacket pocket and walked away. The kid didn't even notice, still absorbed in the display of phone cases. My heart raced. I knew I should do something, but the man was already 15 feet away, heading toward the mall's north exit. I started to stand, unsure of what I planned to do before I could move. "Excuse me, young man." 2 security guards approached the boy. "We need you to empty your pockets." The look of confusion on the boy's face turned to terror as they pulled out an expensive phone case, the exact model he'd been admiring moments before. "I didn't take it," he protested through tears. "This isn't mine, I swear." I jumped up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. But when I looked for the man, he was gone, disappeared into the crowd like a ghost. I tried explaining to security what I'd seen, the man in the blue shirt, how he'd been watching the boy, but I had no proof, no recording, just my word against what looked like an obvious case of shoplifting. They took my information, but didn't seem convinced. What truly haunts me? As I described the man, recognition hit me. I'd seen him before, at my bookstore, always during the after-school rush, always watching teenagers with backpacks and smartphones. That was 6 hours ago. I'm home now, curled up on my couch with a cold cup of tea, but I can't stop replaying it in my head. How smoothly he moved, how perfectly timed it was. The practiced efficiency. How many times has he done this before? How many kids has he framed? I called the mall's security office after my shift, asked them to check the cameras. They said they'd look into it, but the kiosk was in a blind spot. The footage was inconclusive. Tomorrow, I'll go back to work and keep watching for him. I have to. The thought of him doing this to another child, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to stop him. I've already written down everything I can remember: height, build, the watch, the way he walks. Filed a report with the police for all the good that will do. Even now, sitting safely at home with all the doors locked and the TV murmuring in the background, I can't shake the chill down my spine. How calculated it all was, how easily he framed an innocent child. How helpless I felt, and I can't stop wondering, what happens when he comes back? I've worked the night shift at Walmart for 3 years now, and nothing like this has ever happened before. Maybe saying it out loud will help it make sense. It was just another Wednesday night. Now, you know how it is at a grocery store that late. Just me, Mike from produce, and Tom, who handles inventory. The store is so quiet at night, with just the hum of fluorescent lights and the beeping of freezers. It was peaceful until that night. Mike had been teaching me how to make those fancy produce displays, the perfectly stacked oranges. I couldn't get it right, but he was patient. We were laughing as the pyramid kept collapsing. Just a normal night. Around 2 a.m., Tom went to do his usual freezer inventory check. He even made his usual dad joke about chilling with the frozen peas. That was the last thing he said to us. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. Mike and I didn't think much of it at first. Inventory can take longer if the numbers don't match. But by 3:30, something felt wrong. The store was too quiet, even for a night shift. Mike decided to check on Tom. I got this sudden chill, like someone had cranked the AC too high. I followed him to the freezer section. and I wish I hadn't. The silence hit us first. Usually, you could hear Tom humming or muttering numbers, but there was nothing, just the low hum of the freezers. Then we saw them. In aisle 7, between the frozen pizzas and TV dinners, Tom's work shoes, just sitting there, perfectly placed side by side, pointed straight at the freezer door. My hands still shake when I think about it. The shoes weren't just left there, they were positioned exactly parallel to the door. And they were empty. No socks. Nothing. We called out for Tom. Our voices echoed through every aisle. We checked the back rooms, the loading dock, even the gross employee bathroom. Nothing. His car was still in the parking lot. His phone and wallet were in his locker. His jacket was on the break room hook. When the police came, they checked the security cameras. This is where it gets unexplainable. The footage shows Tom walking into the freezer section at 2:03 a.m. There's no footage of him leaving. The camera cover in aisle 7 just shows static for exactly 17 minutes. The police have been investigating for weeks. They interviewed everyone, searched the store, checked ventilation, drainage, everything. Dogs followed his trail, but it just stops at those shoes. I still work the night shift, and bills don't pay themselves, but every time I walk past aisle 7, the temperature feels colder than the freezers can explain. Sometimes I hear humming, like someone counting inventory. Yesterday, something happened that I haven't told the police. I was stocking frozen vegetables, something I've done 100 times, and noticed all the bags of peas were pushed to the back of the freezer. Every single bag, exactly the way Tom used to arrange them. The police have his shoes in evidence now. They've checked cameras within a 5-mile radius and interviewed everyone who worked with Tom. But no one can explain it. How does a person just vanish in a locked store without a trace? I keep thinking about those shoes, how carefully they were placed, like someone or something wanted us to find them, like it was a message. Tom's wife calls me sometimes asking if I remember anything new. I can hear her baby crying in the background and it breaks my heart. What am I supposed to tell her? That her husband disappeared into thin air? That all we found were his empty shoes, lined up like he'd just stepped out of them? The investigation is still open, but I know the police are running out of leads. They keep saying phrases like ongoing investigation and pursuing all possibilities. But I see the way they look at each other. They're just as confused as we are. I still don't know what I saw during those night shifts at Walmart, but I can't keep it to myself anymore. The weight of it, it's too much to carry alone. 3 years I worked that job. 3 years of quiet nights under fluorescent lights, straightening displays of phones and tablets, doing inventory counts while the rest of the strip mall slept. Just me, a rows of gleaming electronics, and the gentle hum of the security cameras above. The cameras that were supposed to keep me safe. I noticed it on a Tuesday. Nothing special about that night, just another shift that started at 10 p.m. I was checking the previous night's security footage, like I always did. Standard procedure, you know. That's when I saw it, 5 minutes of static. From 3:17 a.m. to 3:22 a.m., the screen just buzzed. Gray snow, like an old TV with bad reception. I didn't think much of it at first. Electronics act up sometimes. I worked in a store full of proof of that. But the next night, same thing. Exact same time, 3:17 a.m., 5 minutes of nothing but static. The security company couldn't explain it. They sent out technicians, replaced cables, checked every connection. But the glitch kept happening, always during my shift, always at the same time. Never during the day, never during anyone else's watch. Then I started noticing other things, small things at first. A display phone moved slightly to the left, a chair in the break room facing the wrong direction, the kind of things that make you question your own memory. Did I move that? Did someone from day shift touch it? The footsteps started 2 weeks after the first glitch. I was in the back room counting our high-value inventory behind the reinforced door. The sound was so soft at first, I almost missed it, like someone trying very hard not to be heard, the gentle pat of careful feet on commercial carpet. My heart stopped. I checked my watch, 3:15 a.m. With trembling hands, I pulled up the security feed on my phone. The sales floor looked empty, but there, a shadow. Something moving between the aisles. Then, static, right on schedule, 3:17 a.m. The footsteps were closer now, right outside that metal door. I could hear them shifting, waiting. My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounding so hard I was sure whatever was out there could hear it. I called the police. They came, lights flashing, and searched every corner. Found nothing. Every door still locked, every window secure. The officers exchanged that look, the one that says poor woman working alone at night jumping at shadows. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. The next night, I came prepared, set up my personal phone to record the security feed. I thought, finally, I'll have proof. When the static hit the main system at 3:17 a.m., my phone kept recording. But what I saw later, I wish I'd never looked. The footage was clear as day, no static, just the empty store and something else, a figure moving with horrible purpose through those familiar aisles. It walked wrong, like it knew exactly where the cameras were supposed to be looking. Like it knew about those 5 minutes of static. I quit the next day, made up some story about family problems, needing different hours. My manager begged me to stay, said they'd never find someone as reliable for nights, if she only knew. Last week, I drove past the store around 3 a.m. Couldn't help myself, had to know. Through the windows, I saw the new night manager at the counter. She was young, probably grateful for the quiet shift and steady pay. Behind her, in the shadows between the aisles, something moved. I almost got out of my car, almost went in to warn her. But what would I say? That the security system isn't broken, it's hiding something, that those 5 minutes of static might be protecting us from seeing things we're not meant to see? The worst part, I still have that recording on my phone, but every time I try to watch it now, the file is corrupted. Sometimes late at night, when I can't sleep, I stare at that error message and wonder, did I imagine it all? Or did something follow me home that night through the lens of my phone? I don't work nights anymore. I can't even walk into electronics stores. But sometimes, around 3:17 a.m., my security cameras at home glitch for exactly 5 minutes, and in the darkness of my bedroom, I hear footsteps, soft, careful footsteps moving through my house. Okay, so this happened to me last week, and I honestly still can't stop thinking about it. I know it probably sounds crazy, but I swear this actually happened, and I need to tell someone about it. So I was at Walmart pretty late, like 9 p.m., because I had this awful cold and really needed some medicine. You know how it is when you're sick. I'd been putting off going to the store all day, but finally dragged myself there because I couldn't sleep without something to help with the congestion. I almost ordered delivery, but the fees are ridiculous, and I was trying to be somewhat responsible with monies this month. God, I wish I'd just stayed home. So anyway, I'm in the pharmacy section looking at different cold meds, and I start overhearing these two employees talking in the next aisle. At first, I'm not even paying attention because whatever, people talk, right? But then I hear something that makes me completely freeze. One of them goes, "We need to move it tonight. The freezer's not keeping it cold enough anymore." And the other guy immediately shushes him and says something like, "Are you crazy? We can't talk about this here." But the first guy keeps going, and I swear to God, he says, "If we don't deal with the body soon, someone's gonna notice the smell." I literally stopped breathing, like my brain just couldn't process what I was hearing. The first guy was getting all frustrated and started saying, "Look, I know we messed up, but..." And then because the universe hates me, I knocked over this huge bottle of vitamins, and it went rolling under the shelf, making the loudest noise ever. They stopped talking instantly, like dead silence. And then I heard footsteps coming around the aisle. I don't think I've ever moved so fast in my life. Just straight up abandoned my cart and speed walked, trying so hard not to run, toward the exit. I could feel them watching me, I swear. Right as I was about to get to the doors, one of them yelled, "Ma'am, hey ma'am." But hell no, I was not stopping. Got to my car, hands shaking so bad I could barely drive. Kept checking my mirror the whole way home because I was convinced they were following me. My roommate was out of town visiting her parents, which honestly made everything 10 times worse because I really didn't want to be alone after what just happened. I barely slept that night. Just sat there with all my lights on, debating whether to call the police. But what would I even say? Hey, yeah, I overheard these guys at Walmart maybe talking about a body. They'd think I was nuts. Plus, my dad's a retired cop, and I know how these things go and then say, without any actual evidence, they probably wouldn't even take a report. I tried telling my best friend Sarah about it the next day, but she just laughed and said I've been watching too many true crime documentaries. She thinks they were probably just talking about, like, a deer carcass or something they needed to dispose of. Which, maybe. But why would store employees be dealing with that? Here's the part that really freaks me out, though. Yesterday, I had to get cold medicine, but went to a different store because obviously I'm never going back to that one. And you guys, they were there, the same two guys working in the grocery section by the meat department. When one of them saw me, he gave me this smile that made my skin crawl, like he recognized me. The taller one, he had this weird scar above his eyebrow that I hadn't noticed before, whispered something to his friend, and they both just stared at me. I got out of there so fast I probably left skid marks. Didn't even make it to the pharmacy section this time. Maybe there's some normal explanation for what I heard. But my gut is telling me something is seriously wrong. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I keep replaying their conversation in my head, trying to figure out if I missed something important. And yeah, that's basically it. I still don't know what to do. I've been checking the local news like crazy, but there's nothing about missing people or bodies or anything weird at Walmart. My roommate got back yesterday and thinks I'm being paranoid, but she wasn't there. She didn't hear how they were talking or see that smile. The really messed up part? I drove past that first store today on my way to work. I know, but it's right on my route. And I swear I saw their car in the parking lot. It was this beat-up old Honda Civic with a dented front bumper. They were loading something into the trunk. I couldn't see what it was because they had one of those big blue tarps over it, but yeah, I'm probably just freaking myself out at this point, but every little thing seems suspicious now. Needless to say, I'm doing all my shopping at Target from now on. Even if it costs more, some things are worth the extra money, you know? You know that feeling when something's just off, like every cell in your body is screaming at you to run, but your brain keeps saying you're being stupid? Yeah, I can't stop thinking about what happened last month, about how close I came to being another statistic. It was just a normal Monday night in December, one of those nights where it gets dark way too early and everything feels kind of gloomy. I just finished another mind-numbing day at the office and needed to grab some groceries. Looking back now, I wish I'd just ordered takeout instead. So I pulled into Walmart, one of those older grocery stores that always feels kind of stuck in the 90s, the flickering fluorescent lights, the squeaky cartwheels, that weird smell that's somewhere between cleaner and old produce. God, I used to shop there all the time. Now I can't even drive past it without feeling sick. The store was pretty dead that night, just me and this sweet elderly couple who were taking forever picking out tomatoes. I remember thinking about how cute they were, all wrapped up in their own little world. Funny how your brain holds on to random details like that. I grabbed my usual stuff, milk, bread, those sad frozen dinners I always promised myself I'd stop buying, but never did. Normal things, safe things. Then I headed to checkout, and that's when everything just shifted. There was only one lane open. The cashier was this tall guy I'd never seen before. I remember thinking he looked so out of place. And like someone had just randomly stuck him behind the register, but it was his eyes that really got to me, that they were just wrong, dark, empty, like looking into something dead. He started scanning my stuff, but he was being really rough with everything. Not like the usual tired cashier kind of rough, but aggressive, angry. When he grabbed my milk, he practically threw it down. I actually winced, that's how bad it was. And stupid me, I just had to say something about being careful with my groceries. The way he looked at me then, I can still feel it. Like he was memorizing my face. His voice went all quiet and weird when he talked about being careful, about how we all needed to be more careful these days. Then he started laughing, and I swear my stomach actually turned over. It wasn't a normal laugh, it was empty, wrong, like he was playing a recording of what laughter should sound like. Then, just like flipping a switch, he went all professional again, stated my total like nothing had happened. But his eyes, they never left my face, not once. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get my card out of my wallet. As I was leaving, he said something about having a safe night. The way he said it, though, it wasn't like a normal have a nice day kind of thing. It was like a threat. I practically ran to my car, checking over my shoulder the whole way. I must have checked my rearview mirror 100 times on the drive home. For days afterward, I kept taking different routes home from work, started ordering groceries for delivery, jumped every time someone walked behind me. I kept telling myself I was being ridiculous, that one weird interaction wasn't worth freaking out over. But you know that gut feeling, that primal thing that makes your hair stand up? Yeah, it wouldn't go away. Then this morning happened. I was scrolling through Facebook, drinking my coffee, trying to wake up, and there he was, right there on my local news feed. They'd arrested him yesterday, found evidence connecting him to 3 missing women in the area. 3 women who just vanished into thin air, never seen again. Turns out he'd only been working at Walmart for 2 weeks. Used fake papers, fake references, the whole deal. The police think there might be more victims they don't know about yet. God, I can't stop thinking about those women. Did they get that same feeling I did? Did they ignore it? What made him choose them instead of me? I'm moving in a week. Found a place clear across town. My mom says I'm overreacting, that lightning doesn't strike twice. But she didn't see his eyes, didn't hear that laugh, didn't feel that wrongness radiating off him. The thing that really messes with me? If they hadn't caught him, I know deep in my bones that I would have been next. Maybe not that night, but eventually, he would have been there waiting, watching, until everything was just right. And I would have disappeared too. Just another missing persons flyer taped to a streetlight. Just another case file gathering dust. So yeah, I don't ignore that feeling anymore, that little voice that whispers, run. Sometimes being paranoid is just being prepared. Sometimes being rude is just being alive. Okay, so, you know those moments that just completely mess with your head? Like the ones that make you question literally everything about what you thought was normal? Yeah, that happened to me last Wednesday at work, and I honestly don't even know how to process it still. So I work at Walmart, right? The big supercenter out by the highway, one of those huge stores where you can literally get lost for hours. I usually don't hate working nights, TBH. It's actually kind of peaceful when there's barely anyone around. Plus the overnight differential pay isn't bad. But now I literally get anxiety just thinking about being there after midnight. It was just a normal Wednesday night shift. Most of the customers had cleared out except for the usual 2 a.m. energy drink shoppers and whatevers, and I was just doing my thing, restocking shelves and housewares, trying not to fall asleep standing up. Night shift life, am I right? The store gets super weird late at night, though. IDK how to explain it, like it becomes this totally different place. The empty aisles feel longer somehow, and there's this constant humming from all the fridges that just gets in your head after a while. And the shadows between the shelves, I'm getting chills just writing this. So anyway, I'm just there stacking these stupid throw pillows for like the millionth time when Mary, she works electronics, comes running up to me looking like she'd seen a ghost or something. And I mean literally looking like she'd seen a ghost. You know that face people make when their brain just can't compute what they're seeing? That was Mary's face, 100%. She grabbed my arm, which was super weird because we're not even that close, and basically dragged me to the stock room. OMG, that stock room. I always hated it even before this happened. It's this massive space in the back where we keep all the overstock and seasonal junk. And the lights are always acting up. They'll flicker forever before they actually turn on properly. The whole place just feels wrong somehow, like it doesn't match the rest of the store at all. What we found back there, God, I still have nightmares about it. There was this dark gray hoodie just lying there behind some pallets of paper towels. But the stains on it, they were this horrible reddish-brown color. And they were fresh, like fresh. The kind of stains you see in horror movies and hope you never have to see IRL. Here's the thing that really freaks me out. Mary had literally just been in that exact spot like 20 minutes before, doing inventory or whatever. The hoodie definitely wasn't there then. She kept saying that over and over. And when I got closer to it, it was still warm, like someone had just been wearing it. We called security, obviously, and then the cops showed up, did their whole CSI thing, pictures, questions, checking cameras. But they found nothing, literally nothing. No break-ins, nobody suspicious on camera, zero explanation for a random blood-covered hoodie appearing in a locked stock room. The police were like, yeah, we'll look into it. But you know how that goes. They stopped calling after a few days. Management was all, everything's fine, and installed some new lights in the stock room like that would fix everything. El meao. But then I noticed something that still gives me goosebumps. We have this team photo from last year in the break room, right? And there's someone in the back wearing what looks exactly like that hoodie. I swear it's the same one. But the weirdest part, I can't remember who it is. Like their face is right there in the photo, but whenever I try to look at it, my brain just nopes out, like trying to remember a dream that's slipping away. I've asked everyone about it and nobody remembers who it was either. How is that even possible? How do we all just collectively forget someone we worked with? They cleaned up the stockroom and everything looks normal now, I guess. But sometimes during night shift, which I try so hard to avoid now, I swear I can still smell that gross metallic smell near those paper towel pallets. And that team photo, I can't stop looking at it. It's like my brain is screaming that I'm missing something super obvious. The worst part, nobody was ever reported missing, no crimes in the area that night, nothing in the security logs. It's like it never even happened. Except it did. I was there, the hoodie was real, those stains were real, that warmth was real. I keep trying to convince myself there's some normal explanation for all this, something that would make it all make sense. But deep down, I know there isn't, and that's what keeps me up at night, knowing that something happened in our boring regular Walmart that just shouldn't be possible. Something that left behind a bloody hoodie and a face in a photo that nobody can remember. I know this probably sounds crazy, but I swear every word is true. I just needed to tell it down somewhere, you know?